Welcome back to the You Can Too podcast. On today's show, we have Ross Harkness on the show. He is an entrepreneur, a creator, a British weightlifting champion. He is so many other things, and I'm so excited to hop into this with you. Ross, for those who may not be aware of who you are, can you give us a brief overview of you and what you're all about?
For sure. This is always the awkward question because I've never have an idea of how to define myself or what I do,
Mm,
but I create content mainly on Twitter and Instagram and everything. Basically my whole life, my brand, it's all about self-mastery and helping people unlock their true potential through self-mastery.
yeah, bro. Tell me, what prompted that first step, even into self-improvement in online business? Like, what brought you to that place, and then how did you get started?
Oh man, how deep do you want to go?
I want to start with broke university student with two friends, and one of them being your girlfriend.
Yeah, man, that was a so I'm from Northern Ireland, which is an incredibly small country of 2 million people, and it's all made up of even smaller towns and villages. So, like, I'm from a place with 10,000 people, so there's like nobody here. So, everything's real small minded mentality, like that's typical small town mentality, where it's like
Of course.
you go to town or you go to school, you do what your family did, or you go to university, and that's it. I was always quite good at school. I always did quite well in exams, and I was like, right, I'm going to university, but I want to get away from this small town mentality. So I went to England, which as much as I went to a place called York, and as much as it was only a 1 hour flight and a 1 hour train or 90-minute train, it was like I was by myself, completely nobody else. Luckily at the time I met my girlfriend at the time there. So I had one friend and then I had another friend who I met in the like dorm halls, and that
Michael.
was it. I really just couldn't make, not that I couldn't make any other friends, but there was nobody else that I clicked with. Or I'm I'm very selective, and I always have been, about even before I was like deep into the self-improvement space. I just like, if I didn't click with you, I didn't bother. So I'd
Yeah.
never found anybody with like a the same mentality or anything similar. So yeah, and I was broke because what university student is not broke? It's just you go over, and I, I don't think we're as bad here in the UK in terms of like fees for university, but like you go
Yeah.
over and you're just thrown into debt. You're already going to university 5 days a week, and then you're trying to work a job on top of that. And because you're already going to university, you can't work a full time job, and you have bills to pay, and you're living the student life where you're going out, you're drinking, you're doing all this, and you end up broke.
Yeah, bro. That's the big reason I didn't go, because I thought, okay, I'm going to go to school and pay off debt pretty much for the rest of my life, because
Hmm.
most jobs that you're going to get from college, they're not going to be able to pay off to the level that you need to pay it off to actually live a financially free life. So, what was that first shift? Like, was it a book? Was it a podcast? What happened to you that you were like, okay, I'm going to go here. I'm still in college, but now I'm going to start getting into self improvement and online business?
Yeah. So if we rewind, so I went to university at 18. A year beforehand, basically at 17, I started working out. I started going to the
Mm,
gym, and I got into Olympic weightlifting. So that's where you do a snatch and a clean and jerk. It's a very
yep.
niche and small sport, but I know a lot of like American footballers do it for training and
Yeah.
all. So I got into that. So I was sort of like, I was training. That was the only area that I was sort of in self improvement in. So I was on, in terms of social media, I was always on like the fitness side, and then eventually you stumble across people in the fitness side who are talking about business
Mm,
and all this here. And obviously I was broke. So I was like, I need to make money. And
right.
who doesn't want to make money online? Everybody wants to make money online. So what
Yeah.
actually happened was I was watching all these YouTube videos and make money online, drop shipping. Tried drop shipping because that's the gurus make you think you're going to make 100K a month in 2 weeks, and it doesn't
Yeah.
work like that. I had no money, and I wasted it all on Facebook ads, and it did not work. In the process of that, I can't remember how or why, but I stumbled across Twitter, and I ended up being on Twitter. A couple of months go by, and I ended up stumbling across a guy. I don't know if you've seen him on Twitter, Chris Johnson, and he
I
was
think so.
posting. Yeah, so he had all these. He was selling like courses on Gumroad, but
Yeah.
he was posting these screenshots of affiliates who were selling for him, and they
Gotcha.
were selling like. his total affiliate income was like 100K a week. You know, and I was like, what? I've never had more than I had never had more than like £100 or $100 in my bank account at this time. So I was like, this guy's making 100K a fucking week. This is insane. So I was like, right, affiliate marketing. This is the next one. I'm doing
Yeah.
affiliate marketing. I'm going to be driving G wagons and Lambos. Of course, that didn't work out either, but that was the gateway. Realistically, so we could say there's like free catalysts there, I always like to think. So it was the gym because it sort of got me into that sort of space in a
Yeah.
roundabout way. Being broke, which is always a good motivator for making money, and
Hmm.
then Twitter, so affiliate marketing, and seeing Chris Johnson being like, what the fuck?
Yeah, that opened your mind up to so much more, I could assume, because
Mate, is insane.
as soon as you said 100K, I thought that was total revenue, and then you said a week, and then
No,
okay,
that's a week.
that makes more sense. And then
Yeah.
then you step into start making content online, I assume, and then was Twitter was the first place that you started out, right?
Yeah, so with the affiliate marketing, I sort of just like followed what like Chris Johnson was saying. I bought like his course. He had a course on affiliate marketing as well, you know, and I was
Of
like,
course.
right, how am I going to do this? Ended up on this whole money side of Twitter, which is pretty much just like entrepreneurs and people trying to make money. And ended up on that side, seeing people growing, seeing it wasn't just him, it wasn't just Chris Johnson. There
Yeah.
was loads of people doing this, maybe not to the same level, but there was loads of people doing a similar thing. Ended up, right, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing because if we want to go back even further, I always wanted to be a content creator. Like I
Mm,
remember being like 12 years old, starting high school or secondary school here, and we like me and my friend, we started a YouTube channel, and then I started a YouTube channel by myself, and then of course, you know, you get the piss taken out of you by your classmates and all, so you end
of
up
course.
stopping that, you know, because you're like, I did it for like 2 or 3 years, like different YouTube channels. I'd do one for like a month, and then people would find it, so I would start another one, and then you know
Yeah.
they're all deleted now. No point trying to find them. I've made sure they're gone. But yeah, so I always wanted to be a content creator, and then seeing this side of Twitter was like, this is my chance. This is the opportunity, and it was a the whole content creation thing was like a it was a side of my personality or goals or ambitions that I had sort of buried.
Mm,
You know, like I after once I got to like 16, 17, I just sort of I stopped that. I was like, okay, that's not going to work. I'm all these limiting beliefs, you know what they're like. It's like
yeah.
that's not going to work. I can't do that. Who am I to do this? All that. And yeah, so seeing that just woke everything up, and then I started creating content on Twitter, bought all the growth courses, bought affiliate marketing courses, and yeah, so that's how that went.
That's crazy, man. It's funny because when I got on Twitter, and I try to be on Twitter as much as I can, but it's just not my platform that I go to. I only know it for money Twitter. Never seen another side of Twitter. So for you to see it, and
Yep.
I could imagine the shift in your paradigm of the way that you look at the world probably expanded so much. And now you're
Yeah.
everywhere, and you're really been able to expand a lot on social media. What do you think has contributed the most to your growth and your success on socials?
I think there's probably two things. One of them is luck, because you know luck's always a factor, but I'd say luck
Absolutely.
in terms of what I'm interested in and what I create content around, because I create content around self mastery, which is my own philosophy of self improvement, basically.
Mhm.
And self improvement's applicable to everybody. It's a very wide, broad audience that it's applicable to. So by creating content that is quite broad and applicable to a lot of people, it opens the avenue and the floodgates for you to grow a lot easier. Also,
Yeah.
the fact that like I've been tweeting on Twitter just over 3 years now, and I've tweeted multiple times every single day for the past 3 years, trying to get better every single day. So it's the reps and just reps and reps and reps and reps. Like I know it's almost cliche because I see it on Twitter all the time and all. It's like you want to grow, but people quit after 1 month of not seeing results. It's the same with everything, but
Yeah.
that really is the driving factor because behind why I've been able to do it. Because if you think about it, right, I'm 3 years into this journey. If I had stopped 2 months in, 6 months in, I wouldn't be 3 years into it. And I wouldn't be where I am. I would have stopped at 6 months and
Yeah.
however many followers I had then. So it has literally just time and a bit of luck being what I'm interested in.
I'm glad that you bring up luck because I think a lot of people they'll say it's the consistency, it's the showing up, it's the hard work when there is a part of it that we don't see, right? And I feel like that's an
Yeah,
important part of it. I think the same with this podcast. Like if I stopped early on, I wouldn't be speaking with you right now. Like the opportunities that
yeah.
continue to grow from it. So I see we see the outside, right? The showing up consistently. But what do you feel is something that maybe isn't so surface level that you found success? Like what are the less obvious reasons that you found success? And maybe maybe not even aware of them.
I would also, I'm going to go back to luck, but in a different way. I started at a fucking brilliant time, right?
Yeah.
I started pretty much as it was a year before COVID, right? So I started in like April of 2020. No. Yeah, I started. No, I started in COVID. I started in April of 2020. So that was just pretty much as the
Okay.
whole COVID was kicking off
Yeah.
and everybody was, being put into lockdown. So I got everybody's on their phones. Everybody's consuming. Everybody's fed up with Instagram. So they're like, right, let me try Twitter. And they download Twitter. So more people are coming on to Twitter.
Mm.
I'm like, yourself, 99.999% of people are not creators. So every time you're creating, there's so much room for you to put out content to new people. So
Yeah.
I do think that was a massive factor because I think if I it's not I think if I had started later, it would have just taken longer and it would have been harder. I
Hmm.
think just getting in at that right time was brilliant. I think it was fantastic time to get into the whole social
Yeah.
media world up.
Yeah, timing is so important in everything that
It's
happens.
so
It's so important. I think it's underrated a lot of the time because we're just
yeah.
like we think of it like I don't remember who said this quote, but it's like your second life starts when you realize you only have one kind of thing, and it's like you should always
Yeah.
just start as soon as you can. But timing is still really really important. And as you said, like everyone's on their phone at all times, but everyone either finds a way to get distracted or not use it to the optimal way. So how have you gone about really building leverage online and managing those distractions so that you can still build and achieve self mastery as you talk about?
Oh man, I don't be on my phone. I'm a hard man to get in contact with. If
Yes.
I like I be on my phone probably like 4 or 5 times in the day. Like I really don't use it. Now, a big reason for that is because I can run pretty much everything from my laptop. So if we wanted to compare like my laptop screen times to my phone screen times, they're completely different. But I also don't have anything on my laptop that could distract me other than like YouTube. And I'm quite good at managing that. Um
Hmm.
but yeah, no, I don't go on my phone. I think your phone's the biggest distraction. I think one of the things that now I don't go on it now. I used to. That's the difference, right? One of the
Yeah.
things that really changed it for me was turning off notifications because I don't notice it anymore. I never get it, but I remember, and I've had conversations with friends about this as well. You're sitting there and you're talking, you're doing whatever, and you think your phone has vibrated, like you've got a notification, and you
Yeah.
haven't. So you pick it up, and next thing you know, you scroll anyway, and you end up 30 minutes later, you're on TikTok and you're scrolling, whatever. But also, you're like, if I had notifications on, I would likely be getting buzzed right now, and it would be distracting me, taking me away from being in the moment, talking to you, and also just from wanting me to pick up the phone. So I think a really like it's all dopamine. That's all your phone is. I always call it a dopamine device. That's what I call it on Twitter all the time. So it's
Yeah.
a dopamine device. You need to like you need to detox from the dopamine so you do. And I think one of the best ways to do that is turn off all notifications and just be more conscious. I think a lot of people just aren't conscious with what they're doing.
Not at all. Not at all. I think, I
No.
mean, I think the average screen time is like over a lifetime is a lot of years, is a lot of years that people are on their
I think it's
phones.
like 8 hours a day at the minute, isn't it? It's something
Yeah.
crazy like that, which is like
We
the
pretty
whole
much,
time you're awake.
yes. You spend more time on, I mean, there's a phase in my life where I was spending so much time on my phone that it was like I was living in virtual reality more than I was in actual like life. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, especially whether you're building an online business or you're just on social media just to be on social media, it can get really caught up. How do you manage that with you working online? I know for me, it's definitely something I'm continuously always trying to figure out. How have you been able to figure that out for yourself?
I think a lot of it is if you're in a similar situation to us where you're trying to build something that is
Yeah.
fucking great online, it really comes down to understanding what moves the needle and
Hmm.
understanding that being on your phone does not do anything. It's just productive procrastination. Funnily, I actually just wrote my newsletter this morning on productive procrastination. So it's all just productive procrastination where you're convincing yourself. If you're in a situation like us where you're building something, I'm
Hmm.
scrolling because I'm learning, I'm trying to get ideas, I'm trying to do whatever your bloody excuse is, it's not moving the needle. Like realistically, for you to build your podcast, what moves the needle is finding guests, doing research, recording the podcast, promoting the podcast. You have like four things that move the needle.
Yeah.
Anything else is pointless. So it goes back to me. So like me, I have to. So I have audience on multiple platforms, but it all stems from Twitter. Twitter's like my content hub. Everything else is just repurposed. So like
Hmm.
one of the main drivers of my business and of my brand is creating tweets. So it's like I have to write tweets every damn day. If something is not helping me do that, it's hindering me from doing it.
Hmm.
So it's like managing that there and just understanding what to prioritize and when to prioritize it.
Yeah, you talk a lot about productivity, and it's something that I think a lot of us, if we're on our phone, we can work until the day stops. And if we're trying to optimize for sleep and recovery and a lot of that kind of stuff, it's not good to be on your phone till the last second of the day. How have you been able to manage your productivity system to be able to, I assume, work less, but also be able to get more done than you were when you first started?
Yeah. Again, I do think a lot of it is understanding what moves the needle because you need to know
Yeah,
what you have to prioritize and what you have to be
sure.
productive in doing. So once you understand that, one of the things now this I can sometimes get a bit of like flack for this, but I really, really am a big fan of it. Is planning your day, but planning every hour. I
Yeah.
plan every single hour of my day. Now, the busier you are, the more you will have to plan. Like I know Elon Musk apparently plans every 5 minutes.
Makes
So
sense.
I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised. Like 5 minute meetings and all. So I plan every hour. I think it just provides so much structure because it allows you to get a layout of your day. Allows you to see exactly what you have to do, when you have to do it, and the only thing that you're meant to be doing in that there time period. Who was it? I think it was a comedian. I think it was Jerry Seinfeld, right? He says when he was writing, he could do two things. He set aside time to write, and he could either
Hmm.
sit down and write, or he could do nothing.
Yeah.
I pretty much have the same mentality. I plan my day, I sit down, I was like, okay, I can do what I've planned to do, or I do nothing. So it is.
Yeah.
But and again, I do think a lot of it still comes back to just managing your relationship with social media and like your dopamine device, your phone. So like if
Yeah.
one of the things I really like to do is or tell people to do, I don't do it myself, simply because I've never had to do it. I wasn't too bad of it, but I tell people
Yeah.
always just to set app timers on your phone. Like so
Yeah.
like limit Instagram to 20 minutes a day, 30 minutes a day, whatever it is, right? And just listen to the timer.
Yeah. It's Parkinson's law. If you give yourself a certain amount of time, you're gonna get it done by then because you give yourself no deadline, or you give
Yeah.
yourself a deadline. Like I stop my day. I try to do like I can have like a podcast or something after like 5 p.m., but anything after 5 p.m., I'm probably not going to be productive. Like we work 4 hours a day, and after that, there's really not deep work that's happening throughout the day.
Yeah.
So you can work, but it's probably going to lead you to a worse day tomorrow. Um,
Yeah.
I'm curious. I'm curious for you because like you said, you've been creating content for 3+ years on multiple different platforms. You're growing rapidly. What's something that content creation has taught you about yourself?
I know a lot more than I think.
Mm,
I think it comes back to like imposter syndrome, because I think especially with content creation and trying to put stuff out there, you sort of think to yourself when you're starting, who am I to say this?
yep.
Who am I to tell people this? What do I know? And as much as I say I know a lot more than I think, I also know that I know nothing.
Yeah.
So it's like it's trying to find the balance there where it's like I know nothing. I know I'm always going to want to learn and need to learn, but it's trusting yourself and trusting your opinion. So like I know a lot more than I maybe I could rephrase that to I should trust myself a lot more.
Mm.
Something along those lines.
Mm. Do you feel like you've been able to build trust within yourself through posting
Yeah.
online, or where do you feel like that's do you feel like you didn't have trust within yourself before?
To a certain level, I would say. I would say not like I was never really bad with like, oh, I didn't trust anything I was doing, but there was definitely a certain like there's always a doubt. Always doubts.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, is this the right thing to be doing? Even like when I was in university studying for exams, it's like, am I studying enough? I don't trust
Yeah.
that I've studied enough. It's sort of always like you can always do more mentality in that way
Mhm.
that I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust myself that I didn't do enough. But now I've sort of I like to think I've rewired that thought and belief in my head.
I think it's a belief that a lot of us have, especially when we're chasing mastery, is we feel if I'm
Mm-hmm.
not achieving, I'm falling behind. How has that relationship changed throughout your life, and how have you been able to manage that, or if you have?
Man, it's one of them things I've only really actually been able to manage recently
Mm.
because well, I'd say recently, probably the last like 6 months, I've really got a hold of it. Because when you're running a business and when you're creating content, there's always something to do, like always.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, like for example, with content, I can always create tomorrow's tweets. I can always create next week's newsletter. I can always film this. I can always do this. You know, building a business
Yeah.
is always like, okay, I can always plan out next quarter's marketing strategy or what, you know, there's always something to
Always
do.
something.
So recently I've really just like almost forced myself to just like stop working. So like what I do is
Mm.
now I do, depending on the day and what I have to do, between like 3 and 5 hours. I know 4 hours sort of the limit, but 3 and 5 hours of like high priority tasks in the morning. And
Yeah.
then gets to about 12 o'clock. I do an ice bath. I eat. And then I do like 1 or 2 hours of like my maintenance tasks. So like just sort of stuff that doesn't move the needle but needs done. Um,
Yeah.
then I hit the gym and that is it. I use the gym as like a signal to end my day. So
Mhm.
after the gym, I eat and then I'll just start like I'll read, I'll watch podcasts, watch YouTube, do whatever I'm doing.
Yeah. I'm kind of the opposite where I use the gym as like the start to my day and it propels me into it. And then the rest
Yeah,
of my day is like a walk is like my end of the day kind of thing. Is like, okay, I'm
I
gonna
get it.
prioritize this, get out of my head, get out of doing what all of these things that because like you said, we can always do something. There's always something to
Yeah.
do. But for a lot of people, I think they're getting started and they don't know what to do. So for people that maybe don't have the experience, they don't think they have the knowledge, where do you think people should start when it comes to building leverage online and building a business that actually allows them to make that their thing?
Okay, so I think it's important to distinguish something first for
Yeah.
that person, and it's, do you want to be a creator first business or do you want to be a business first creator?
Yeah.
There's a very big difference there. So I would consider myself a creator first business. So my main priority is creating content, and then from what I build, the leverage I build, I create a business from that. There's other people who then build go into this with the idea and the plan to build a business and then use content solely as marketing and as lead gen for that business. I think it's very important to distinguish
Mhm.
that difference because it completely changes everything you do. If you want to go down the creator first route, I think it's very important to just get started. It's just you just have to start tweeting and just start or posting content on whatever platform. I think now
Yeah.
I am biased towards Twitter. I love it, but I do think the platform you should create on is the platform which you find yourself on the
Yeah.
most drawn to. So whether that's if you find yourself always on YouTube, create YouTube videos. If you find yourself always on Twitter, write tweets. You know, it's I think it's that simple. And get
Yeah.
started. One of the things that I think really helped me when I realized that at the start was you worry about people seeing your content, judging your content, and thinking, oh, this guy's tweets or this guy's YouTube video or whatever it is crap. Understand that at the start, nobody sees your content. You don't need to worry. You're literally like if you're on Twitter, I'm going to use Twitter as an example, but if you're on Twitter, you're tweeting into the void. It's literally just you reading them tweets. So
Mhm.
that's okay. Use that first while where nobody is reading your tweets, or very few people are reading your tweets, as the time to get all the crap out and to build a bit of confidence in yourself. And you'll
Yeah.
realize that nobody cares. Like in the most positive way possible, nobody cares. It's like going to the gym. You go to the gym, and a lot of people, when they start out going to the gym, they're nervous. What if people look at me?
Nervous.
Nobody cares. Nobody's focused on you. They're focused on themselves. Now, if you want to be a business first creator, which is like the opposite, you need something, you need a really valuable skill to base your business on. So I think that first step is figure out what you want your business to be and what that skill is, and then build that skill.
That's so powerful. I think I heard Mr. Beast talk about that a little bit ago, where like the first year even is like no one's gonna see anything that you're posting. So just like use that time to
No.
just get better every video as to the best of your ability. Where do you think most people go wrong when it comes to whether it's creating content or building a personal brand?
I'm going to give you the cliche answer first, and that's that they quit. Like, I think it is really that simple because, and I hate giving a cliche answer, but I do genuinely think that is the answer, because people quit because they're not getting results. They're not getting results because of one of two things. They're either not putting out quality, or they're not putting out enough quality, so volume. But if they didn't quit, they would get better with reps and iteration. So their quality would improve. And over time, because content compounds and your systems are going to be more efficient and you're going to be faster making better content, your volume is going to increase. So it is literally just not quitting. But I also, to go a bit deeper into that, in terms of like quality, a lot of people talk about the reps, and I talk about the reps quite a bit too, but it's not just, you can't just do reps. You have to do reps with the conscious idea and the conscious plan to improve each rep. It's the
Hmm.
1% better every day, because so many people fall into the trap of showing up every day, and loads of people do it, but they never improve, and then they
Yep.
stay stuck. So if you think about it, when you start out, your skill level is zero. You can keep putting in the reps, but if you never try to improve with each rep, your skill level stays zero. It might improve a wee bit, but if you try every single time to iterate and improve, that's when you get the exponential.
Yeah. That's something I think is a controversial topic because I talk about that so much. I've probably made content on that a lot recently about consistency just isn't enough. Like you can be
No.
consistent, but if you're consistently doing the wrong thing or consistently doing the same thing, you're not going to make any improvements. It's like it's good that you're getting the reps in, but it's I think like the 10,000 hours mindset doesn't really it serves some people to get started, but it's more
Yeah.
10,000 iterations that's really going to get you to that
Yeah.
next level that you're
Oh, I
looking to
love
get
that.
to, right?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you talk a lot about discipline and motivation. And I think for a lot of people, they're waiting for the motivation to get started or they're waiting for the motivation to stay consistent and show up consistently. How has your relationship shifted between motivation and then finding that discipline to show up?
Man, I love motivation. I think motivation's fantastic. Like, you see, when it's there, I think a lot of people get it, they go on the wrong side of it way too far,
Mhm.
where it's, motivation's bad, don't use it. Motivation is fucking fantastic when it's there. When motivation is there, you use that, because when you have that motivation, what you can do is you do the work, right? When you're motivated, you want to do the work. You'll do all the work in the world. Doing the work will get you some sort of reward. You might have to look for
Mhm.
the reward. The reward mightn't be obvious. The reward might be that you recorded a podcast, that you outreach to so many people, that you writ 20 tweets, whatever it is. That might be the
Yep.
reward. It might be a super obvious one, but it's still a reward. With that reward, you will get a hit of dopamine, which means dopamine. Now, if we want to go really deep, dopamine technically is like the pursuit or motivation hormone, but you can use that as like momentum to then be disciplined and just keep going and show up and get yourself into that momentum of being disciplined. One of the things though with discipline is, you, again, it's sort of cliche, but you need to know why you're doing it. You
Yes.
do. Like, if you don't know why you're being disciplined, it's so stupid. You're not going to be disciplined. You might be disciplined for a day, you might be disciplined for a week, you might be disciplined for a month, but you're not going to be disciplined for 10 years if you don't know why the fuck you're doing what you're doing. Which I think, one of the things that I've really sort of developed the past, I'd say, 2 months, is what I call conscious alignment. So it's like
Mhm.
you go through a life tapping process where it's like you pretty much craft your utopia. So your dream version of everything in life. So how you spend your day, your habits, your physique, your dog, your partner, everything, dream version. You create another, which is the opposite. So it's like the anti vision sort of idea. And then basically you craft an identity that would be able to live that utopia. That is the
Hmm.
identity you want to aspire towards. And then you consciously align yourself with that utopia and that identity by every decision. So if you are trying to decide on a business venture or what to create content around, you ask yourself, would that align with your utopia and your identity?
Hmm.
And with every action you take, so if there's an action that you're not too sure about, so if you're going into the kitchen and there's a chocolate chip cookie sitting there, you ask yourself, does that align with my utopia? Likely it doesn't, so you don't do it. So you're creating that why. Now, of course, you can also go deeper into your why. You can do stuff like the 7 levels of why, which is a really good exercise that I recommend. But
Yeah.
you can do all that sort of stuff too. But I do really think no matter which way you do it and how you do it, you need to figure out your why.
Yeah, you need a reverse engineer as well, is what you're
Yeah.
talking about, right? It's like getting clear on what that ideal lifestyle looks like. Because I think for a lot of us, we don't even know what we want. Like we're just doing to do, I feel like for the most part, or we're taking action to say that we're taking action to feel better about ourselves. And I think it messes up our relationship with ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We fall victim to the motivation trap kind of thing. When it comes to discipline, and you were just talking about dopamine, I would love to dive into that kind of stuff. Like, where do you think people go wrong when it comes to trying to build discipline within themselves?
I think, and this might be a bit controversial, but I think people reward themselves far too much.
Mm,
I think people think, okay, the typical example is, okay, I went to the gym today. That means I can go home and eat this pizza. No, it fucking doesn't. That's not how it works. You get me? Like, it's not, I'm not
yeah.
saying not to reward yourself or anything, but I think people reward themselves far too easily for tasks that shouldn't be rewarded and should just be part of your day to day routine. You know,
Mm,
like if you had a big business venture or some, like if your podcast hits a certain amount of downloads every month or something,
yeah.
go and fucking celebrate, go and reward yourself however you want to do that. But I think people reward themselves far too easily. Like they'll do 1 hour of work, they'll do like 1 hour of deep work, brilliant, well done for doing the hour of deep work, but that doesn't mean you can go and scroll TikTok for 45 minutes.
Hmm.
Which again, if you want to tie dopamine into that, there, it's completely messing up your dopamine system. Everything about your phone messes it up. I'm such a big advocate for not being on it.
Yeah. It's powerful. I mean, the
Mm,
I mean, at the end of the day, the number one thing that gets in the way of your goals isn't really you, but it's how you're using the things around you to get out of your own way. So I guess it's you, but
yeah,
there's so much there. Like your phone can you be used as a tool or it can be used as a really destructive device, and that's what a lot of people are using it as.
yeah,
When it
completely.
comes to finding that balance between rewarding yourself, but also finding the balance of this is my standard that I set for myself, and this is just who I am. This is what I do. How do you find that balance?
Okay, well, we can go two ways with this. I don't like the idea of balance. I don't think balance is a thing.
Of
In the
course.
short term, in the short term, balance isn't a thing. Like
Yeah.
I genuinely believe you're either doing something or you're not. Like we're in this conversation on this podcast.
Hmm.
We're doing this completely right. We're not balanced while doing this, right? And like I think people underestimate the amount of effort, time, and sacrifice that is required to achieve their goals.
Hmm.
Okay, so they think they can achieve them with balance. And now I'm not saying not to be balanced, I'm saying not to be balanced in the short term. So it's
Yeah.
more like, I'm sure you've heard of monk mode. It's like I'm
Of
a
course.
massive advocate for periods of monk mode where it's like you do
Mhm.
1 to 3 months of just absolutely nothing but work, and then you can reward yourself after it and go for a trip. That's what I do all the time. I go deep and then I'll take like 2 weeks and go somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, I think people underestimate what it takes, and then I don't think balance is a good option.
Yeah, I think we have seasons because I don't believe in really balance
Yes,
either. I like
that's the
it's
way I do it.
yeah, you going through seasons of life where you're relentlessly taking action on what you said, and then there's other times where you're still working, maybe you're still doing the thing that you have to do, but you're
Yeah,
not going. You are giving yourself permission, and I think that's the real important part. It's like at the end of the
yeah, I
day,
like that.
after gym, you give yourself the permission to take the rest of the day off. Because I think a lot of us we're like
Yeah,
we don't give ourselves the permission to say, I'm going to do this now. And so we feel guilty, or we feel shameful that we're not moving the needle forward. And that relationship
Mm.
of like striving and surrendering is something I talk a lot about. And I'm curious, like with your chase towards self mastery, like how has that relationship shifted throughout this time that you've been in this space?
I would say, in a weird way, it has shifted to me working less every day, but almost more in the like medium term. And if you looked at it from month to month, I would say I would actually get more done and sort of be
Yeah.
more intense, but on a daily basis, almost less intense, since I used to work like from the moment I woke up to the moment I fell asleep at my laptop,
Me too. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
whereas like now I have like set times. One of the things I devised over the past while too is like a daily routine, which is like build, sweat, learn. So it's like
Yeah.
build in the morning, sweat in the afternoon, learn in the evening. And that's
Hmm.
sort of how I just like, as long as I do that, I know I'm doing everything I need to do. I'm building in the morning and getting everything done. I'm sweating in the afternoon, which is everything I need to do. And then I'm learning, which obviously cycles into the building in the morning. So it helps that.
Yeah, you talk a lot about, cold bath. I know you've been doing ice baths a lot recently. They've had a
Yeah.
big impact on you. You've obviously done a lot of weightlifting throughout your life, and there's so many habits within that. I would love to be curious about, like, what are some habits that are dailies that are non-negotiables for you that have had the biggest impact on your life?
Long term, it's definitely been working out. Short
Mm.
term, it's definitely been ice baths. I've done an ice bath pretty much every single day for the past 6 months, and it has completely changed my life in a really weird way. Like it's an ice bath. I always used to like, obviously, you still see it on social media all the time where it's like ice baths, you don't need to do it. And I
Yeah,
completely agree, you don't need to do an ice bath, right? But I do think everyone should. You
yeah,
know, I do. They're genuine. There's no other way to describe it other than you get out and you feel like a beast for the whole day. You just feel amazing. You feel on top of the world. You know, and one of the things that I always like to say is that if you can't put yourself through 3 minutes of discomfort, what can you do? Like if you can't go and sit at a fucking in cold water for 3 minutes, what are you going to be able to do? You're not going to be able to do anything.
yeah, yeah. It's just challenging yourself to do the thing that you said you would do.
Man, that's exactly how it is. Just keeping that promise to yourself. Like if you
At the
like,
end of the
I've done them pretty much every day for 6 months, and there's not been a single day where I've been standing beside the ice bath and been like, I don't want to do this. I Every single time I stand there, I've been like, I don't want to do it. It's like I'm
Yeah,
trying to find every excuse and still do it.
yeah. Yeah, it's the doing it. I see on Dakota Robertson's story like every day. I had him on the podcast. It was last week, and he talked, like, he posts almost every day. It seems like I didn't want to go to the gym, so I went to the gym.
Yeah,
That's the
yeah,
the
exactly. Yeah,
first thing I thought of today. I know the gym has had a big impact on you. Obviously,
yeah,
that's kind of like where I think for most people it's where we start. Like we need to see, it's, you can tangibly see that you can change your body and the way that you physically are, so that you can
yeah.
realize that your mind is malleable later on in your life. How has that shaped you and who you are? And what do you feel like that's had the biggest impact on you?
Oh man, the gym has been everything for me. I mean, it's absolutely everything. Like I've been training. Like I'm 22. I've been training 5 years,
Mhm.
and it's just like it's been absolutely everything. Now I trained for the first 4 years. I just trained literally just strength training. So I was doing like
Yeah.
singles, doubles, triples, no more than 5 reps. So my one of the issues that I actually had was I never really molded my body at all. I was just training strength. I never did any volume. So like I was really strong, but I didn't look like I lifted at all. I was like, I was like 67 kilo, which is probably like 140 pounds. So
Yeah.
I was, and I could lift 130 kilo, which I think is 300 pounds above my head. You know,
Yeah.
like but I didn't look like I could lift in the
Wow.
slightest. So like, I never actually. I always worried about being small. I think it's a big reason why everyone, you either go to the gym to get because you're worried about looking big and fat, or you're worried about looking small. So like in the
Yeah.
last year, I've really started to focus on like more hypertrophy styles. So putting a bit of mass on. Well, maybe 18 months. So But yeah, no, the gym's been everything. I think it builds so many traits. So like, delayed gratification is the obvious one. I think it's just so
Yeah.
important. Discipline, because like it's not just discipline in the gym. You also have your nutrition outside of it. Discipline. I think self respect's a massive one. I think it
Yeah.
builds so much self respect because you can, well, as much as like I didn't necessarily mold my body, I was really strong for the
Hmm.
size I was. So it
Yeah.
made me confident in myself and made me respect myself. Um, but it also just, I think, if you, even if you go down the bodybuilding route where you start to put on muscle, like you can see, like you said, you mold your body to how you want it to look.
Yeah.
You respect yourself because you're like, I have literally went from A to B. I've done this and I've done this. The only reason I've been able to do this is because I've showed up every single day. I've went in,
Yeah.
I've challenged my mind, I've challenged my body, and I've stuck to my macros or whatever. So I think self respect is one of the biggest things, especially for me. I think it definitely helped me. Not that I ever struggled with self respect, but more so just like
Yeah.
really helped me dial in self respect and be like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with, though. Like, so
Mm,
self-respect, like building it, because a lot of people aren't using their phone as a tool. A lot of people aren't going to the gym as a way to build their mind. They're just thinking of it as I should do this, instead of like I
yeah.
should be here, right? And it's a different perspective that you have to come from. And like I said, you talk a lot about self-mastery. I'm curious, why do you feel self-mastery is so important, and why do you feel that most people should go towards it?
Oh man, it solves every problem you have. Every problem. So like I split self mastery up into three areas, but there's a fourth bonus, but three areas. So you master your mind, you master your actions, and you master your craft. Because I see your craft, what you do, as an extension of yourself because it shows
Yeah.
what you value, and at least if you choose it wisely. And then the
Hmm.
fourth one is mastering your performance. So that's like your like biohacking sort of stuff, like your sleep optimization, your fasting or whatever, your ice baths, all that sort of stuff. But
Hmm.
it solves every problem because, like, think about it. If you procrastinate, if you chase self mastery and you chase mastery of your mind and mastery of your actions, mastery of your craft, mastery of your performance, you're not going to procrastinate because you have mastery over every area that dictates that. If you then go even bigger picture, so if you want to build $1 billion company, $100 million company, if you want to make 2 grand a month, like whatever your goal is, if you want to build the business to whatever level, you have the mastery of your mind, your actions, your craft, your performance, which are all crucial for doing that because you need to master your mind so that you can develop the strategies, not have the limiting beliefs and perceptions that are going to hold you back from building it to where you want to go. You're going to master
Hmm.
your actions so you can put in the work that is necessary to get to where you want to go. You're going to have mastery of your craft, which is essential because you need mastery of your craft to develop or to produce whatever you're doing at a high enough quality that people actually want it. And then master
Yeah.
your performance is like the icing on the cake. So like you need all three of them areas to be able to build a business. So
Yeah.
it's like any goal, any problem, self mastery will solve it.
Yeah, it's almost like you're focusing on the input goals instead of output goals. Like, you're focusing on the things that you have to
Yeah.
do, the ways that you can get better
Yep.
when it comes to performance and mindset and everything in that regard. You're focusing on the things that you have control over, which for a lot of us,
Yeah.
we're focusing on the things that we don't have control over, that we want, their expectations, right? I think
Yeah.
for a lot of us, we do that. And I know for you, you've been on this space for years, right? So, when there was times where things were going as planned, or this failed or that failed, what was your mindset in that time, and how did you get past it and continue to move forward?
Well, this is actually something I've never really struggled with. And it's so weird because I've been quite introspective about it. But like
Mm,
I've never like anytime something didn't work or it didn't go to plan or however you want to say it. Like it
yeah.
wasn't even in my mind to quit. Like it didn't literally never cross my mind. And I'm not saying that in like a no quit mentality or whatever. It's
Right.
just more that like I literally never even thought about it. It was like, okay, that didn't work. Don't get me wrong, it might have got me down in the dumps for a while. I might have been annoyed or frustrated that it didn't work, but I never thought, right, I'm sacking all this in. I always just thought, right, okay, next thing. What's next? I might have felt lost for a period of time or whatever, but I never ever thought, okay, I'm quitting. I have no idea why either. I think I gave myself no other option in terms of not even like in a conscious way or in a negative way, more so just that like I said earlier, it was something I always wanted to do, creating content.
Yeah.
And so when I found this avenue, I didn't even like, I was just like, this is sort of meant to be. It's just like, this is what I'm meant to do. And just didn't even cross my mind.
Yeah, I think I'm a similar way. Like I identify as a
Nice.
delusional optimist is the best way to use it,
Love it. Yeah.
best way to phrase it. I think for a lot of us, we do because we're at this point, regardless if the externals show it or if other people believe it. We have this delusional belief that no matter what happens, if I simply don't stop, I will not fail. And I
Yeah.
think that's probably some. Is that something that you subscribe to? Do you believe?
Oh, completely, mate. I 100%. I just think if you like, I'm a very like, I love data and or data and like science and just looking at like, okay, what is the facts here? And if you
Yeah,
look at the statistics and everything, it's just like pretty much everyone who succeeds, it's just because they didn't fucking quit and they just kept showing up. And if they understood that if they kept showing up, something is going to work.
yeah,
Like it might like if you want to build a business, it might be your 10th business. If you want to create content, it might be your 227th post that goes viral and changes everything.
yeah,
But if you had fucking stopped at your 226th post, that would never have happened. Like I think it's just a matter of just keep believing that it'll work out and just showing up, and you'll do the right actions, you'll do the right thing, it'll work out over time.
yeah,
Some people might take 6 months, some people might take 10 years, some people might take 40 years, but it will work.
yeah. I think it's like the long term time horizon. I think for a lot
Yeah,
of us
man.
in the social media era, is like you said earlier, like the drop shipping, you jump into it, you think I'm going to make 100 grand in a week. That's going to be my route. And for a lot of it just doesn't work that way. It's not
Oh,
as easy
no,
as
at
it
all.
seems, right? But when you have a long term view, it's almost like there's no, like you said, there's no thought in stopping if you think long term, because at the end of the day, like you can't fail if you don't stop. And so I live through that lens. I know there's you talk a lot about books and a lot about like the self improvement
Yeah,
space.
man.
I would love to
Yeah.
hear what are three books that have had a massive impact on you, and The Way of the Superior Man can't be one of them.
Best book you will ever read.
Answer.
Man's Search for Meaning.
I agree.
Um,
Got it here too.
you got it. Yeah, I love it, mate.
Of course,
I
of
can't
course.
find it. Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
I got it. No
What?
worries.
Yeah, man. It's somewhere there.
Yeah.
Also, oh, it might be over. I think it's actually over there. I have another one behind me. It's over there. The Right. So Can't Hurt Me, Search for Meaning, which I think is the most impactful and best book you will ever read in your life.
It's it's amazing.
Third one is Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. The reason I say that, and I think solely the reason I say that, as much as it's a good
Hmm,
book, it was the very first self help book I read. So it sort of got me into, and don't,
got you.
I no, there's no even meaning behind that or nothing. There's no reason. I just like, I think it was like the first one that came up when I searched self help book, and I was like, that's what I'm buying.
Probably did. Yeah.
So yeah, them three books. But Man's Search for Meaning is just, I loved it. I thought it was a fantastic book. I genuinely just loved everything about it.
I'm right with you on that.
Highly recommend that. I think
I
everybody
think
needs
I
to read
think
that book.
I'm in full support of that. I think it changes the way that you view the world, your challenges, your life,
Everything.
just in everything in your life. It changes the direction. Really, I feel like if you take it in. There's one question I ask every guest, the last question I ask, and it kind of encapsulates what I'm trying to do with the podcast. I would love to know, what belief are you currently unlearning?
It's a good question.
Yeah, that's usually the people's answer.
I think it's something you might relate to because we're both young. Like I'm a bit older than you. I'm 22, but you're what, 19, 18, 19,
Yeah, 19. Yeah, yeah, 19.
19. Yeah. So I think you'll probably relate to this as well. But everybody in our space is so much older than us.
Yeah.
Everybody, right? And you can look at it and you can be like, they're so far ahead of me. It's like
Yeah.
you're not, so the belief I would say is you're not as far behind as you think,
Mm,
because I mean that in both, you're not as far behind to other people, but also in where you should be, because I think you are where you should be.
yeah.
So I think that's definitely it, because like you look around and it's like we're young, but you see, as much as there are young people in our space, of course, but most people who are killing it have been doing it for years. And you
Yeah.
compare yourself there and you're like, why am I not doing that? Why is this not happening me or whatever? And even most people, if you look at most people who are killing it in our space, right? Or in a similar space online, like making money, impacting
Yeah.
people, self-improvement online, it's all, even people in our space are, sorry, who are our age, who are killing it, they've been doing it 10 years. Even if they're like 20, well, if they're 22, they've been doing it from their 14. They've been doing it
Yeah.
from their 15. So they still have 7, 8 years of experience in there. And then if you look at like a 30-year-old who's killing it, or a 40-year-old or a 50-year-old, or you look at Tony Robbins, who like almost created the space, and he's what, I think he's
Yeah.
nearly 70s and his mid 60s.
Yeah.
Like it's like you're not as far behind as you think. Because I think it can get really, it's really easy to compare yourself to everybody else. And I don't even think you can, like, because I compare myself, but I never let it get me down. I always use it as like feedback, if you get me. So it's like, okay, what are they doing? Okay, that's working. Let me try that. But I still think subconsciously you get to a point where it's like they're so far ahead.
Hmm. Yeah. We
But yeah, I said that's
subconsciously
it.
yeah, we place ourselves in this thought process of I should be further along or I should be in a different place because I'm
Yeah,
seeing all these other
exactly.
people. They're in the same path. But yeah, I've subscribed to the mindset that I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I think it served me. I
Yeah.
think it serves most people. Um, because if you subscribe to anything else, you will feel shame, you will feel guilt, you will feel all those emotions that come up when you do when comparison comes up. It's the thief of
Yeah.
joy, right? It's why everyone says it. But Ross, I'm so
Hmm.
grateful to have you on the show, bro. You provided so much value. All your links will be in the show notes, of course. But thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
James, brother, I really appreciate the opportunity. A fantastic conversation. You're really good at this. It was brilliant. I loved it.
Appreciate you, brother.